There is a homesickness of the soul that no change of address can ever cure. You have felt it, a persistent, quiet tugging beneath the frantic noise of your life, a whisper that uses the voice of your own deepest loneliness. It is the echo of a story you agreed to long before you were born, a contract signed in the blood of stars. And now, in the quiet moments, you can feel the weight of your own signature. This is not a neurosis to be treated, but a destiny calling to be claimed. It is the unseen current that has been pulling at the hull of your life all along while you have been busy studying the maps for a different journey entirely. There is a whisper that follows you. You have heard it in the pause after laughter has died away, in the quiet hum of an empty room, in the strange, hollow taste of a victory that should have satisfied you, but did not. This is not a failure of your life, but the stirring of its deepest intelligence. I speak of that sacred discontent, that subtle, persistent ache in the human spirit, which we so desperately try to medicate with noise, with ambition, with possessions, with love. We diagnose it as depression, as restlessness, as a simple need for a change of scenery. We treat the symptom and ignore the cause. For I tell you, this ache is not a sickness to be cured. It is a homing signal. It is the native language of your soul, speaking to you in the only vocabulary it has, the vocabulary of longing. This feeling you are so eager to escape is in fact your most precise navigation tool. It is the proof that you are not a machine designed for efficient happiness, but a living entity designed for meaning. A machine, when all its parts are functioning, is silent, it is content. But a soul is only content when it is growing, when it is reaching, when it is straining toward the light of its own potential. The discontent is the friction of your growth. It is the sound of your larger self, still buried within you, scratching at the walls of the smaller life you have settled for. We have been taught to seek comfort, to arrange our lives for the absence of this ache. But a life without this sacred discontent is a life without a compass. It is a ship in a windless sea, perfectly safe and going absolutely nowhere. Consider how you have been taught to respond to this inner signal. You feel the tug, the unease, and you immediately look outward. You think, if I had a different partner, a more prestigious title, a larger home, then this feeling would cease. So you embark on the frantic external quest. And for a time, the newness of the circumstance drowns out the signal. But sooner or later, in the stillness of a new night, in the familiarity that eventually claims all new things, you hear it again. The same whisper. The same ache. You have changed the scenery, but you have not answered the call. You have been trying to silence a message from the depths by rearranging the furniture on the surface. The work, then, is not to annihilate this discontent, but to sit with it, to invite it in from the cold where you have banished it, and to listen, truly listen, to what it has to say. This is not a passive listening. It is an active decoding. You must begin to ask the right questions. Instead of what is wrong with me, you must ask, what is this feeling trying to move me toward? Instead of, how do I make this stop? You must ask, what larger version of myself is demanding to be born? This sacred discontent is the immune system of your psyche, rejecting a life that is too small, too false, too safe for the vast and wild creature you are destined to become. It is the pain of a seed cracking open in the dark soil, not because it is being destroyed, but because it is preparing to become a tree. When you learn to interpret this native language, your entire relationship with yourself transforms. The ache is no longer your enemy, but your most trusted guide. It becomes the irritant that creates the pearl. It is the tension in the bowstring that gives the arrow its flight. It is the divine dissatisfaction that will not let you rest in the mediocre, the inauthentic, or the half-lived. It is the relentless, loving voice of your own destiny, refusing to let you forget the magnificent and terrifying promise you were born to fulfill. So the next time you feel that old, familiar restlessness rise within you, do not reach for the phone, the bottle, or the desperate plan for a new life. Stop. Be still, and ask the emptiness what it contains. For the seed of your purpose is buried not in your satisfaction, but in your sacred and beautiful discontent. And so you have learned to sit with the sacred discontent. You have begun to listen to its whispers, to decode its strange and urgent language. But now, a more daunting question arises: who or what is speaking? For this longing is not a random occurrence, a mere psychological weather pattern in the climate of your mind. It has a signature. It bears the mark of a creator. I tell you, this ache is the echo of a promise, a vow made not in this lifetime, but in the silent, starlit realm of potential before you ever drew breath. This is what the ancients knew as the Daimon's contract, the sacred agreement between your soul and the universe, written in the invisible ink of your deepest inclinations and signed with the fingerprint of your essence. You imagine yourself a blank slate, born into a world of infinite choice. But this is only the half-truth the ego wishes to believe. The deeper truth is that you arrived here already imprinted with a cosmic blueprint. You carry within you a unique and non-negotiable configuration of the spirit, a pattern of energies, a set of thematic challenges, a specific color of genius that is yours and yours alone. This is your Daimon. It is not a guardian angel, nor a passive observer. It is the demanding, brilliant, and relentless architect of your destiny. Its sole purpose is to ensure that you fulfill the terms of the contract you yourself authored, and it will use every tool at its disposal to guide you, including the exquisite pain of your discontent. Think of your life not as a random walk, but as a stage upon which this timeless drama is meant to unfold. The Daimon is the playwright, and you are the lead actor. When you ad-lib, when you wander from the script into comfortable, safe, and conventional lines, the Daimon sends you a signal. It is the feeling of being off track, the sense of existential friction, the dream that unsettles you with its symbolic power. We misinterpret these signals as failure or neurosis. In reality, they are the playwright's notes delivered directly to your soul. The recurring challenge, the pattern of relationships that force the same lesson upon you, the peculiar talent that feels less like something you do and more like something you are. These are not accidents. They are clauses in the contract. They are the specific, personalized curriculum your soul enrolled in. To remember this promise is the great work of the second half of life. It requires you to look back over the narrative of your days, not as a series of random events, but as a meticulously crafted initiatory journey. Where were you broken? That was a clause about humility and strength. Where did you feel most alive? That was a clause about authentic expression. What could you not forgive? That is a clause calling for a transformation of your own heart. Your Daimon is both your greatest advocate and your most severe critic. It will orchestrate the collapse of the life you built without consulting it. Also, you can be forced to remember the one you were meant to build with it. This is why the feeling of purpose is so often accompanied by a sense of recognition, not discovery. It feels like remembering a name you had forgotten, like returning to a homeland you were exiled from at birth. You are not inventing your destiny, you are unveiling it. You are not creating a self from nothing, you are fulfilling the original majestic pattern of the self that was always there. The call was never in the future, it was in the prelude. So turn your gaze inward to the oldest part of you. Listen for the voice that speaks not in the language of your parents or your culture, but in the native tongue of your own spirit. It is the part of you that already knows the terms. Your task is not to write a new contract, but to have the courage to honor the one that has your true signature upon it. And so we arrive at the great paradox. The contract exists, its terms are written in the fiber of your being, yet it is not delivered to you on stone tablets. It is whispered. It is hidden in plain sight. The daemon does not shout its directions from the rooftops. It leaves a trail of breadcrumbs in the forest of your ordinary life. Most walk right past them, their eyes fixed on the distant, spectacular horizon, searching for a lightning bolt of revelation. But I tell you, the map to your destiny is not carved in the constellations above. It is etched into the very ground of your daily existence. You have been walking over its symbols all your life. This is the Symphony of Clues, the secret language of your path, composed in the minor key of coincidence and the recurring melody of your own emotional truth. Think of your life as a vast and intricate score. The grand themes of your destiny are not played only in the crashing cymbals of major life events. They are present in the subtle leitmotifs, the book that inexplicably fell from the shelf and opened to a passage that spoke directly to your heart. The stranger on the train, whose 5-minute comment unraveled a knot you had carried for years, the childhood fascination that never truly left you, that now seems to call from the periphery of your vision like a forgotten melody. You have been taught to dismiss these as chants, as sentimental nostalgia, as meaningless quirks. But this is the ego's arrogance, its belief that only the loud and the logical are real. The soul communicates in a more subtle, more symbolic tongue. It uses the poetry of circumstance. The clue is rarely in the factual content of the event, but in the resonance it creates within you. A career may be prestigious, but if it leaves your soul feeling thin and pale, that feeling is the clue. A relationship may be socially approved, but if it demands you make yourself smaller to fit within it, that constriction is the clue. A simple, humble activity, working with wood, tending a garden, organizing chaos may feel inexplicably right, as if your hands are remembering something your mind has forgotten. That feeling of remembrance is the most important clue of all. It is the daemon recognizing its own tools. Your emotional response, the quickening of your pulse, the sense of deep alignment, or conversely, the profound feeling of dissonance is the divining rod that twitches over the hidden spring. You must learn to trust this inner instrument above all others. This is not a passive process of waiting for a sign. It is an active, vigilant practice of pattern recognition. You must become the scholar of your own biography. Look for the recurring images in your dreams. Notice the themes in the stories you are compulsively drawn to, in the heroes and villains who capture your imagination. What is the one problem you feel compelled to solve, the one injustice you cannot abide? These are not random preferences. They are the specific, personalized riddles your daemon has set before you. The wound you keep encountering is the very shape of your medicine for the world. The talent that comes to you so naturally that you dismiss it as trivial is likely the central instrument you are meant to play in the great symphony that, when you begin to collect these fragments, these scattered clues, a remarkable thing happens. The random dots begin to connect. The isolated incidents reveal themselves as points on a single, elegant curve. The seemingly meaningless struggles of your past are unveiled as the necessary training ground for your future. The map begins to coalesce. You are not piecing together a puzzle from a box with a picture on it. You are watching the image of your own destiny develop like a photograph in a dark room from the chemical bath of your own conscious attention. The path does not appear before you fully form. It unrolls beneath each footstep, precisely when you need to see it, but only if you have learned to read the signs. So I urge you, begin the collection. Keep a journal of coincidences that strike you as strangely meaningful. Note the activities that make time vanish. Honor the pool of what you have loved since you were young. Do not dismiss the whisper, because it is not a shout. The most important message of your life will arrive not as a proclamation, but as a hunch, a flicker of beauty, a quiet and persistent knowing in the deep, still waters of your own heart. The clues are all there. You have always been standing right on top of the treasure dot, and so you have learned to read the Symphony of Clues. You have begun to collect the fragments of your map. But now, we must confront the very ground upon which this map is drawn, for there is a place in your psyche you have been taught to fear, to feel, to flee from at all costs. I speak of the void, the emptiness, that hollowed-out chamber within where you feel only the ache of absence, the echo of what is not there. You have been told this is a place of failure, of lack, of a life not fully lived. You rush to cram it with noise, with relationships, with achievements, with anything that will silence the wind that whistles through its vast and lonely architecture. But I tell you, you are mistaking a sanctuary for a wound. This void is not your enemy. It is the altar in the void, the most sacred and necessary space in your entire psychic world. Consider the architecture of a cathedral. Its power, its ability to lift the soul toward heaven, does not reside in the stone of its walls, but in the space those walls contain. The vaulted ceiling is magnificent precisely because of the empty air it embraces. The resonant silence of a great hall is what gives music its home. In the same way, the void within you is not a sign of something missing. It is the active, purposeful container for what is meant to arrive. It is the chamber that awaits its destiny. The ache you feel is not the pain of emptiness, but the strain of a vessel being prepared to receive a content too large, too potent for your current understanding. It is the soul's own expansion, creating the space it will one day fill. We are a culture that worships fullness. We are terrified of the negative space. Yet every artist knows that the empty space on the canvas, the silence between the notes, the pause in the dance, is what gives form and meaning to the entire composition. Your life is that composition. The void is not a mistake in the design. It is the central feature of the design. It is the quiet center around which the noise of your existence must eventually orbit. It is the chamber where the Daimon's voice can finally be heard without competition, where the clues you have gathered can settle into their true configuration. You cannot hear the whisper if you are constantly shouting. When you cease your frantic efforts to fill this space, when you stop seeing it as a psychological failure and instead approach it as holy ground, a profound alchemy begins. The emptiness ceases to be a passive absence and becomes an active presence. It becomes the altar upon which you can finally lay down the burdens you were never meant to carry, the outdated identities, the borrowed ambitions, the heavy armor you built to please a world that does not know your name. The void accepts it all and returns only silence, but a silence that is now pregnant with potential. This is where the old self is dismantled, not as an act of destruction, but as an act of reverence, making room for the new. It is in this sacred emptiness that the contract can be reread, the map can be fully unfolded. It is the blank page before the poem is written, the stillness before the first step of the dance. Do not fear the hollow places in your spirit. They are not evidence of a life unlived, but the architectural blueprint for a life that is trying to be born. Your deepest purpose will not be found in the clutter of your achievements, but in the quiet, open space you have courageously refused to fill with anything less than the truth. The altar is waiting, and it is waiting not for an offering, but for a presence, your own dot, and so you have come to the altar in the void. You have made peace with the silence and learned to listen in the emptiness. But now, a new sensation will begin to make itself known, not as a whisper, but as a pull, a deep orbital draw from somewhere beyond the horizon of your current life. This is not a force you can command. It is not a goal you can pursue. It is a current you must enter. I speak of the gravity of potential, the irresistible, often terrifying pull of the unlived life that is yours and yours alone. It is the weight of your own destiny, and it exerts its influence upon you with the same silent, unwavering certainty as the moon upon the tides. You have felt this pull, though you may have given it other names. It is the restlessness that arrives not from discontent, but from anticipation. It is the strange sense of homesickness you feel for a future you have not yet reached. It is the courage that rises in you not because your fear has vanished, but because the pull of what you are meant to become has grown stronger than the fear's power to hold you. This is the gravity of your own wholeness, calling the fragmented parts of you home. Your ego, which wishes to remain in control, in known territory, will interpret this pull as a danger. It will shout warnings of risk, of impracticality, of the folly of leaving solid ground. But the soul knows this gravity is the only thing that is real. It is the force that orchestrates synchronicities, that arranges the fateful meeting, that places the perfect book in your path, all to adjust your trajectory ever so slightly toward the center of your own being. Think of your current life as a comfortable, well-mapped orbit. It is predictable. It is safe. You know its rhythms and its boundaries. But the gravity of your potential is a larger, more massive body, a sun around which your current orbit is but a distant moon. To move toward it requires a surrender. It requires you to fire the engines of your will, not to steer, but to break free from the lesser gravity of the familiar. There will be a terrifying period of drift, of weightlessness, where the old world recedes and the new one has not yet come into view. This is not lostness. This is alignment. You are being drawn into a new and vaster trajectory. The anxieties that accompany this shift are not signs you are wrong. They are the natural turbulence of crossing from one gravitational field into another dot. To surrender to this pull is the ultimate act of faith. It is not faith in a God or an external savior, but faith in the integrity of your own soul's design. It is the decision to trust the map of clues you have deciphered, to honor the contract you feel in your bones, and to believe that the void you have sanctified was indeed prepared for a magnificent purpose. This is where you trade the poverty of certainty for the riches of the unknown. You are not jumping into an abyss. You are answering the call of a different, more profound order of reality. The path does not appear before you take the step, because the path is generated by the walking itself. It is woven into existence by your commitment to the pull dot. So when you feel that inner tug, that magnetic draw toward the horizon that both frightens and fascinates you, do not contract in fear. Lean into it. It is the most reliable force you will ever know. It is the universe itself conspiring to remember you. Your destiny is not a distant point to be reached. It is a gravitational center, and you are already falling beautifully, perfectly, inevitably toward it. And so we arrive at the most intimate and misunderstood of all the oracles. We have spoken of the gravity that pulls, the altar that waits, the clues that guide. But there is one compass whose needle remains eternally true, whose guidance is both constant and devastatingly clear. Yet we spend our lives running from its testimony, denying its authority, medicating its profound and beautiful pain. I speak of the oracle of absence. I speak of the supreme wisdom hidden within the very thing you lack, the very thing you long for, the hollow space where you feel most incomplete. You believe you're longing for a deeper connection, for a work that sets your soul on fire, for a life that feels truly your own, is proof of your inadequacy. You look at the gap between where you are and where you feel you should be, and you see only a measure of your failure. This is the ego's most tragic misinterpretation. It is like a bird interpreting the hollow of its bones as a flaw, never understanding that this emptiness is what allows it to fly. Your absence is not a vacuum, it is a shape. It is the precise mold of what is meant to fill it. The ache for a soulmate is the proof that your heart is already capable of that depth of connection. The yearning for meaningful work is the evidence that you possess the dormant seeds of that very purpose. The longing itself is the blueprint. We are taught to seek fulfillment, to become whole by acquiring what we do not have. But this is to misunderstand the language of the soul. The soul does not speak in the past tense of what was lost, nor in the future tense of what might be gained. It speaks in the present tense of what must be. Your deepest longing is a current fact of your spiritual anatomy. The absence you feel is not a hole to be filled with the first convenient substitute, but a sacred vessel waiting for its specific corresponding content. To try to fill the God-shaped void with a lesser idol is the root of all addiction, all misplaced ambition, all settling for a life that is a pale imitation of the real one. Therefore, you must perform the most courageous act of introspection. You must turn and face your emptiness without flinching. You must ask of your longing not how do I make you stop, but what are you here to create in me? The answer will not come as a job title or a person's name. It will come as a quality of being. That ache for connection, it is calling you to become more vulnerable, more present, more open. That yearning for creative expression, it is demanding you cultivate courage, playfulness, and trust in your own voice. The absence is not pointing toward an external object, but toward the internal transformation you must undergo to become the person capable of holding that very thing. The longing is the universe's way of carving you out, of hollowing the reed so you may become an instrument for music that has not yet been composed. This is why what you crave most passionately is the clearest compass you will ever own. Its needle does not point toward a destination on a map, but toward a destination in your own character. It points unerringly toward the man or woman you are destined to become. The path to your purpose is paved not with the acquisition of things, but with the embodiment of the qualities your longing reveals. Your emptiness is the shape of your future wholeness. Trust its geometry. Follow its hollow, magnificent form. And so we come to the final integration. You have learned to read the clues, to honor the void, to trust the pool, to decipher the oracle of your own longing. You have gathered the fragments of the map, but the map is not the territory. The final, most sacred work is to inhabit the landscape it reveals. This is the cartography of longing, the slow, deliberate, and courageous act of breathing life into the lines you have traced, of planting your feet upon the soil of your own destiny and walking step by step into the living geography of your soul. For too long you have believed that purpose was a destination. You would one day reach a city on a hill, a finished monument. I tell you, it is nothing of the sort. It is a climate. It is a particular quality of light, a specific texture of earth, a unique ecosystem of challenges and nourishment. Your purpose is not a point on the map. It is the very ground you are meant to walk upon. The clues were not leading you to a treasure chest, but to a territory that is yours to tend, to explore, to love. The Daimon's contract was not a set of instructions for building a single structure, but the grant of deeds to a vast and wild inner landscape. That is your birthright. This is why the feeling of purpose is so often accompanied by a sense of both coming home and setting out on a great adventure. You recognize the features of this inner world, the mountains of your resilience, the rivers of your intuition, the forests of your imagination. They have always been there in potential. But now you must build your homestead here. You must till the soil of your talents, weather the storms of your fears, and learn the seasons of your own energy. This is not a metaphorical exercise. It is the practical, daily application of your whole being to the raw material of your life. It is choosing the action, however small, that makes you feel more alive, more aligned, more present in this inner territory. It is rejecting the path that, while easier, leads you into a foreign and desolate country within yourself. The map is not static. It evolves as you walk it. Each choice you make in alignment with your true nature adds a new contour, deepens a river, reveals a hidden valley. Each betrayal of that nature erodes the soil, blurs the paths, leaves swamps of regret. You are not just the explorer of this territory, you are its co-creator. The gravity you felt was the pull of this specific psychological landmass. The altar in the void was the clearing at its very center. The clues were the landmarks pointing the way to its borders. To live your purpose is to stop looking at the map and to begin feeling the earth beneath your feet. It is to notice the quality of the air in this place that is your soul. It is to learn its language, the language your longing has been speaking all along. It is to build a life here, not as a tourist, but as a native. A native does not question their right to be on the land. They belong to it and it to them. This is the final surrender and the ultimate empowerment to cease your searching and to begin your inhabiting. So take the final step of the paper and into the landscape. Breathe its air. Feel its sun and its rain upon your skin. The map has served its purpose. It has brought you here to the threshold of your own existence. Now you must cross over. The territory of your destiny is waiting, not for a visitor, but for its rightful sovereign to finally take possession of their own soul dot. So now you see. The path was never hidden. It was etched into the palms of your hands, written in the rhythm of your own heartbeat. You have sat with the sacred discontent and learned its language. You have remembered the terms of the Daimon's contract. You have followed the Symphony of Clues to the altar in the void, surrendered to the gravity of your potential, and let your deepest longing become the only compass you will ever need. The map is complete. The territory awaits. Do not leave this place and simply return to your life. Return as the life you were always meant to be. The stones of your shadow are your foundation. The fire of your dragon is your fuel. The whispers of synchronicity are your native tongue. You are no longer a seeker. You are a sovereign. You are the cartographer of your soul and the inhabitant of its vast, unclaimed lands. dot from this moment forward, let every choice, every word, every silence be an act of taking possession. Walk with the unshakable knowledge that the universe does not give you a path. It responds to the path you courageously choose to walk with every step of your authentic being. You do not need luck. You need only the relentless, faithful courage to inhabit the magnificent self you have spent a lifetime uncovering. The world is not waiting for your application. It is hungry for the signal of your presence. Thank you. Now go and take your place. The world is waiting for the unmistakable sound of a soul that has finally come home.